What's up? This your boy Humble Dad. Welcome back to another edition of Humble Dad Podcast. It's going to be a great show today. Why? Because I said so. And we're going to be talking about some questionable things or some debatable things. The topic, as you see, is are single mothers destroying their sons? And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is some videos that had kind of surfaced, and we may or may not be able to show those. But one of those videos that I've seen was Iyanla Vanzant. I want to say it's kind of, I think that's her name, where the mother was, where the son was trying to communicate to the mother about how she had treated him, and she was not listening to the words that he was saying, and Iyanla was trying to communicate that for him, and it didn't go too well. Many of you also may have seen Lil Scrappy and his mom on hip hop. I think it's something like that. Hip hop. I always forget these shows. There's so many of them. But nevertheless, I'm gonna bring up my guest for the evening. It's gonna be a great show. We're gonna start off with Miss Lady, Miss Madame, Miss Boss Lady, Miss Shay. How you doing, Miss Shay?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well, right? You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get into it. You got the first question,
Mm-hmm.
the get to know you question, and that question is describe describe your Christmas and New Year's in 20 seconds or less.
It was lit.
Okay. It was lit.
It's lit. Christmas was lit.
Okay.
New Year's was lit. It was lit.
Oh, okay. So I'm glad you made it. It was
I
lit.
did.
There's
I
so many
did.
ways that could go. All right,
It
cool.
is. It is.
So we're gonna
I
leave it to
left
the
it that way.
imagination. We'll leave it to the
Exactly.
imagination. All right, cool. Bet. Welcome back. All right,
Thank
and
you.
all right, absolutely. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Dwayne Jones. What it is, homie?
Yo, yo.
Hey, you got the question?
I do. I do. So in 20 seconds, I say filled with family and love with a sprinkling of travel. So yeah, that was my holidays or Christmas.
That's a bet. All right, we got coming to the stage, Mr. RJD. What it is, fam?
Positive energy, King. How you feeling?
I'm doing well, man. I need that positive energy all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I do my best to try to bring it every time I come, man. But it's not always readily available. You know what I mean?
That's a fact, bro. Tell me, man. Describe your Christmas and New Year's in 20 seconds or less.
Man, trying,
Mm.
uh, trying, man. This has been a rough one for your boy. I found out why people aren't so happy around this time of year. My
Yeah,
best friend took his life this year.
yeah.
Right, literally after the holidays. So it's it's bittersweet this year. You know what I mean?
I understand. I had that somewhat of that feeling this year, but last year it was really, really challenging for me when I lost because I had lost my wife. You know, late 20. Well, it was August 13th. And it was a tough Christmas. So I totally understand that. My homie Dwayne was there to help me out. So that's why he get to rock with me on the stage today. You know what I'm saying?
You know
Family
that's my
ties, baby.
birthday.
Say what?
Did you know that's my birthday?
Oh no, I did not know that. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get into it. Hey, welcome to the stage. You know what I'm saying? My homie, my friend, and we've only met once, Mr. James Penn Jr. What it is, sir?
Hey, what it is, sir? I appreciate you having me on, man. We celebrate Kwanzaa around these parts, so Habari Gani to all my people that's
Bet.
on the Kwanzaa tip.
Yeah.
And this Kwanzaa and New Year's season for me was certainly reflective and sobering. It was reflecting and sobering. Like Rod, I lost someone close to me as well, leading
Mm,
into that time of the year. And I think it's always a time to reflect on our own mortality. Whenever those type of things occur, and it's a sobering moment. So a lot of transition in my life right now, personally, professionally, and then I have the transition of a friend. So it was very reflective, but it's been cathartic during that period of reflection and sobering. So I'm excited about the future coming out of that space. So there might have been a little bit more than 20 seconds, but I took a little bit of Shay's time that she didn't use.
Absolutely, you did.
See how fair I am? Give her.
I'm like,
There it is.
hey, listen, we're gonna talk, man. Listen, and we're gonna have a conversation. You don't have to, we're gonna be. Everybody on the show is always very well respectful. One of the things that I'm looking forward to is like if you disagree with someone, just be respectful about it, and we'll move forward with the conversation and the dialogue. I'm interested to see what y'all have to say this evening. So the first question that we have this evening is, what is being present look like? Now, the reason why I asked this question is because most of the topics usually are centered around fatherhood, and some of the questions that I didn't get to last week, we needed to kind of touch upon this week. And so one of the things that has been talked about is that men or husbands or fathers need to be present. So what does present look like, or what is being present look like? Okay, and we'll start with Dwayne. What does present look like?
Presence is actively being there, knowing what's going on with your kid, knowing what events they have, and what's going on in their lives at that particular juncture, and having that open communication. Also, things like showing up to your kids' activities. That's a part of being present. Be there to witness their the emotional roller coaster in which we all go through, and be able to teach them how to manage them well.
That's what's up. Thank you for your answer. Who you got going next?
Come on with it. Let's go with James. Come on with it, James. What you got?
Yeah, being present. That was part of my reflective process. Was being present, and that reflective process of being, the sobering time period over Kwanzaa. And for those maybe unfamiliar with Kwanzaa, every day is 7 days. Nguzo Saba, 7 days of celebration, and each day has a principle that we live by. And the last one is Imani, and so part of being present with my family. We have our weekly time every Sunday where we do brunch, and I impart, principles and inculcate that into the mindset of my children and my wife. And we do the same 7 days in a row over Kwanzaa, and faith being the last evening that we just had yesterday. I was talking to my children and my family about faith, and how faith and fear are both beliefs in the future and something that hasn't happened yet. And when we start operating in fear and having apprehension, we start having, doubt about something that's coming up. That is us not being present. When we start having, we're living in the future. Then when we have regret, when we're living in the past. But the key is to be present. And so before we start talking about being present with our family, with our children, I think we have to be present with ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to do the introspection to understand and make the distinction that where we are is not who we are. Where we are is an appointment we made in the past to meet our current self. Our present is our past future. We have to ask ourselves constantly, what's missing from my life right now in this moment? And that's what helps me to stay present and get away from fear of, well, what if this happens? What if that doesn't, work out? I'm living in the future. Or, man, I should have did this. I should have done that. Now I'm living in the past. What's missing from my life right now in this moment? And, by asking myself that question, that's kind of my reset to come back to being present. And that allows me to operate in who I am and who I'm supposed to be in that moment. So that's what comes to mind for me about being present.
It's good stuff. Who you got going next, James?
Let's get Shay in the mix. We'll get the ladies for us.
All right.
So I would say being present is having an awareness of what's going on around you. And then with that awareness, having the ability to take action based upon what's going on. I would also say it's having impact with the things that you say and the things that you do. So when you're present, you will have some sort of effect on the situation, and you will know how to respond to whatever is happening currently. So I would say just awareness and impact. All right, RJD.
All right. Well, I was saying, listening to you guys, and everybody's bringing some like phenomenal points, and I was almost running out of things to say because you guys took them all. But for me, I believe it's being emotionally available, right, and also comprehensive to what is necessary, because like I found myself being present but not available, right? I was here, but mentally and emotionally, I was so busy trying to build something else, do something else, where I wasn't present emotionally. And I learned that's more important. More important than your physical presence is your mental and your emotional presence for your family. So for me, being present is to have it all the way around, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, being present.
That's really good. I want to kind of give some examples on that. Like for me, with my kids, I have four, 13, 11, 8, about to be 9, and 4. And they all require a different level of being present
Right.
from their dad, from me specifically, right? Um, and I noticed, because I'm with them pretty regularly. Well, with them all the time, but sometimes I can't be with them. But what I've noticed is that when I'm not with them, like I feel my absence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Like, so what I did this week or last week, I was not as present as the way that you all described, whether it was awareness, taking action, emotionally available, comprehensive, and I realized that that had an effect on them, and I had to have a conversation with them about, I apologize for not being present, and I said, did y'all notice that that daddy was going through something? Nothing bad. It's just that I wasn't as present as I need to be. And they said yes. And so what I did today was I made it a point to do something that they actually would want to do. Jordana likes watching TV, so we watched the movie. Today I watched a debate on uh, Christianity and is God real or does God exist, between an agnostic and a person that said they're a Christian. I watched that with my oldest daughter, who enjoys logic, right? And so she got to listen to that with me, and we discussed about it. And then my two sons, we went out and we played catch in baseball. So I recognize what you said, RJD. I was on the phone with someone, but and so that meant that I was not comprehensively there. Like I was present as far as physically, but I was not connecting to my sons, and I noticed the different interaction that they was having without me. As soon as I put the phone up, it was a totally different energy. So as we think about that being present, I want us to, people that take away from this, that I want it to be about the kids and the family. More important for me is that how do we train our kids to be the people, what we want, what it is that we're talking about, right? Being present. So we're going to kind of be in that particular aspect. So I appreciate everybody's answer. And so this kind of leads us into some things. Does anybody have something to add to that?
Oh, I was gonna say, so when I went to New York to bury my friend and do the eulogy and all that, like a few things happened in the house, and the wife handled all those things. But one particular thing that my daughter said that stopped my wife in her tracks and made her call me. My daughter said, "Where's Daddy at?" She goes, "Well, Daddy is in New York. He has some business he has to take care of." She goes, "Well, he has to hurry up and get back here because this house needs its daddy." And when she said that, I was literally in tears, like, because the not just the want, but the need of this house, that this house needs its daddy. Man, I got back on that flight as soon as I possibly could to get back home, man. I could not wait to get here, man.
Yeah, that's good, man. Like what comes to mind when y'all hear that? James, Dwayne, or Shay? What's your thoughts?
I could definitely relate, man. I just think of every time I pull into the I pull into the garage. They hear the garage. They know daddy's home, and I work from home, so I don't really be going like that. It could be a store run. I had to run an errand. I had a meeting, something like that. Like I'm here most of the time, but one on the way out, my two youngest, I got 4, 13, 9, 6, and 3. The 6 and 3-year-old, they always, if they're anywhere around when I'm leaving, they're coming out to the garage. And it's cold out there. I'll be opening the door. Down, we having shoes on. So it'd be a little annoying sometimes. I'll be like, y'all, stop coming out in the garage without no shoes on. So I'm doing that. And then whenever I come back, they hear the door open back up. I could have been gone for, 2 hours. I could have, like, not even an overnight trip or nothing. And as soon as the garage door open, that door's, flying open and they're running out. And I strive to be present and just appreciate that moment because my oldest two don't do it no more. Right. Like the 6 and 3-year-olds still are giving me that love of, oh, daddy's home, or, oh, daddy's about to leave. I need to see him off. And, I strive to try to resist the urge to be annoyed, particularly if I'm a rush. I'm trying to get out the door. I'm like, okay, go. I got to sing you the bye-bye song, right? As the garage door.
What's the bye-bye song, James? James, what's the bye-bye song, bro?
And she just make it up as she go every time. Bye. She just do it to a different rhythm, different melody. It's no actual song, but she sits there at the door. The garage door's coming down. She's waving, underneath to the last second. And again, when I'm in a rush, sometimes I'm running late or it's cold and I'm thinking about their feet. I'm like going out. Like it's just kind of y'all all around me by the door. I'm trying to grab my stuff. They on my legs, but I do strive to just soak that in and appreciate it, knowing that that's a good sign, right? They're ready for daddy to come home, or they're wanting to see daddy off, and it ain't gonna be like that forever. Because a 9-year-old and a 13-year-old, they over it. They get.
That's what's up. Anybody else want to add to that?
No, I like hearing and seeing stuff like that because to me, that's the impact that you do make. That it's not what you do when you're far off; it's whenever you're actually there. So from that impact, they miss it. Not only that, once it comes back, they want to embrace and hug and love on that. Not only that, it's also a reinforcement for us. But like you're saying, James, I do agree. Yeah, that joker does fleet and it does go. And yeah, I with the young ones, enjoy it while you have it. So that's influence.
No, and I was just saying, the house definitely needs its daddy. You like the women, we create the atmosphere, but the dads really set the tone for all of that. So overarching, just saying, this house needs this daddy, like all homes need their daddy. I mean, you need both parents, but that's really the truth. You need your daddy. You just see the different relationships that children have with their fathers. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I was watching my son today on FaceTime, and he's 10, but he's like laying on his dad's face. I'm like, why are you just laying on your dad's face? And he's like, dude, get your breath out my face, but he just let him lay on his face, but he need his daddy. And it's times when, even though we co-parent, we don't live in the same household, but sometimes I'm like, listen, dude, you need to move closer because this house need this daddy, he needs you. So maybe he needs, so we're talking about those things, but it's definitely important. Just the things that children pick up from their fathers, like the simplest things. And even if it's like wrestling, my son loves to wrestle. Him and his dad are always like, I'm on the phone, they wrestling. I'm like, why would y'all call me on FaceTime if all y'all gonna do is just wrestle and say, get off me, get off me? And he's like, Mommy, he's hurting me. And I'm like, stop hurting my baby. He's like, no, he ain't hurt. He just chill out. I'm like, oh my goodness. But dads, this house needs this daddy. Whatever she said, I'm in agreement with that. We need the daddy. So
That's what's up. That's what's up. So yes, we all need our fathers and our mothers. You know, this channel was pretty much predicated on trying to get dads that are not active in their kids' lives to understand that, but at the same time, also mothers that don't allow their kids to see their dads understand the need for their dads to be there, whether it's a boy or a girl. My next question is kind of hinged upon what you all are talking about, and that is, why do you think kids appreciate time more than presents, meaning gifts? Why do you think kids appreciate time more than presents? I'm gonna give you a moment to think about it, and whoever wants to go can go.
I'll say it leaves an imprint in their mind. And memories are made from that, and then they feel seen and they feel heard. I know with me being a working mom at one point, I had to literally shift my schedule. So this is the only thing that I do between 4 and 8 p.m., which is bedtime. At first, I used to work through those hours, but then I was present, but I wasn't available. I wasn't aware. And so I literally shift my schedule to, 4 to 8, everyone knows that's Vinny's time. Whatever he wants to do, that's what we're doing, whether it's us talking, we're eating, we're communicating. So it's very important because those are the lasting impressions. Those are the things that's going to help define and shape them as they grow into young adults. And I see the difference between his dad is way more active than I am, like they play, they go to the court, he's very active with him. I'm like, y'all seem like y'all around the same age, but y'all aren't. But I see.
Did you say that his dad is a kid? That what you said?
I mean, he's a kid at heart. He
Okay.
is. Because he's literally, his dad is the type where I have to tell him, Vinny is like, Mommy, can you please tell Dad to let me play with some kids, like some other people? And I'm like, Vincent, let the boy make some friends. No, he don't need no friends. He at the park, he jumping through that's his dad, and I'm like, let him make some other friends, please. It's equally as important. But I see how their relationship is, and it is because he is very active, involved, very present and aware. And I have a different type of relationship with him from a different perspective. Like he'll say, Mommy, can you give Dad the recipe for the tea you made when I was sick? And I'm like, okay, so I have the things that he comes to me for, but it's so important that we do make that time because it just leaves those memories and it helps them to understand what the fatherhood and motherhood should look like.
Hey,
Do I want to choose someone? Or...
Yeah, choose somebody.
Who
somebody asked a question for you.
Is his dad the only child? No, he's not the only child, but he is the only boy. But our son is the only child, but he doesn't let the boy play with other kids. And I'm always talking to him about
probably because he ain't have another boy to play with.
That's probably why. He definitely takes that. So it's always, Vincent, let him play with some other kids at the park. Like, let him play against some other boys on the basketball court. Like, let him play with other people. He's so overprotective too. So
I'm about to say the same thing. Is like I'm the same way. Like if it's a choice between me playing with my kids or them playing with a bunch of other kids, I'm in the loops with them. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm out there on the monkey bars and everything when I'm out there.
You sliding down the slide too?
Yo, as big as I am, all 6'1" of me sliding.
Well, you are just like him in that sense then, because I'm like, he's 6'1" too. I'm like, you cannot be sliding down that slide like that.
Hilarious. Who you got going next, Shay?
RJD, let him keep going.
All right. Well, for me, I believe the children's appreciate it more because memories appreciate and gifts depreciate. You know what I'm saying? Like memories appreciate.
What a bar, bro.
I appreciate it. Over time, they do though. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about it. When a memory first happens, yesterday it happened. But over a year, 2 years, 3 years, when you think about that memory, it's grown and it's appreciated to where it's something you want to hold on to for the rest of your life. You don't want to let it go. And let me tell y'all something. I spent, please don't ask the number, but I spent too much money in toys this year, and my children have forgot about them already. Look what day it is. Look what day it is. You see what I'm saying? So memories appreciate and gifts depreciate. Trust me.
No, that's real. Because my son, does anyone else kids will talk about a situation like it just happened, but it may have happened like months ago or years ago, and they feel like it just, I'm like, no, that was like 2 years ago or a year ago.
Yes. And my children already, my daughter's 6, so she's starting to understand time and memories, and she's putting time with things and places and timestamps on it. So it's like, Daddy, remember when we went to, but she has yet to say, remember that time you bought me that doll? Or, you know what I'm saying? She has yet to tell me about a time I've given her anything tangible, but she knows about each and every time we went to the Lego store. We go to the parks. Every time we go to do something she enjoys doing, she remembers that.
I'm gonna jump in here if that's all right without being called on.
Absolutely.
Because this is so good. That was definitely a bar, Rod. And I was thinking, memorabilia tarnishes where memories last. I had an All-America honor from finish 8th in the nation in wrestling, and one of my children, broke it. And I've had this thing for about 20, going on 20 years at the time. And when we were, in the last place before we moved here, like one of my kids like broke it, and I was upset at the moment. But trophy. You look at old trophies and medals. I was so proud of all the medals that I got when I wrestled and the trophies and things, and they just stuff's out in a box somewhere, right? They tarnish. Memorabilia doesn't last, but the memories. When I get with my old teammates and we start talking about the good old days, you can go back to the exact state that you were in when that happened. Even, when my friend that I lost last month, his birthday is today. Shouts out to Darren. And, I just share some stuff in the group chat just from memories, right? I mean, you even see me smiling right now, right? Because I'm thinking of some of the stuff, they would say it could put you back in the exact same state. So the same is with our kids, right? It's those toys that the memorabilia, it's going to tarnish, right? The memory is going to last forever. What I want to add, this is just a little bit different, a hack, if you will, something that be helpful to, I think, dads in particular, is a lot of times as men, we think things have to be grandiose, right? Like we want to do the grand gesture, the grand amount of time. And I'm going to take your kids on a trip and we're going to do this. It's the small, you can get just as much out of small moments. It's not even quantity of time as much as quality of time, being present, right? Like really going back to the previous question, really being present during that time. And you can get accomplished in a small amount of time. Earlier this morning, my 3-year-old came and she had a little marble in her hand, and I was working. I was on my laptop, and again, I was trying to resist the urge to be short and have attitude. I just took like 3 minutes, and played which hands it in with the marble. You know what I'm saying? She had a turn. I had a couple turns. Boom, and then all right, Dad, got to get back to work. And she went on. She go play with your sister, and she went on about her way. Like she's 3, she probably won't remember that. But if things start to become like a just constant ritual, right? A consistent ritual, you might not remember, the story I read last night, but when you get older, you will remember that I read you stories at night, right? You're not going to remember like every, if it's not some grandiose, gesture of time, you won't remember maybe each specific incident, but you'll just remember that was something that you did, even if it's just those, the compound effect, right? Those just small things repeated over and over and over. One habit I need to pick back up since we moved. We used to live real close to a florist. I would just go buy one carnation once a week for my oldest daughter, right? I just one. We think we got to go buy a dozen long stem roses, the biggest, most amazing bouquet, as a gift. It cost me like $1 and some. It was like $1 and some change. And every Friday, I'll go and buy a carnation for her, right? Just so those small things over and over and over is important.
That's a bet. So on you, Dwayne. But you gotta come off mute in order if you want us to hear what you got to say. Now, if you don't want us to hear what you got to say,
I'm double muted. Golly. Well, I hear the kids hollering in the back. My bad. One of the things I was thinking about is time really can be broken. So, like with the toys and stuff, they get it and they don't take care of their possessions and it breaks, and it's off. I don't think memories can be broken like that. Another thing, as for whenever it comes to kids, they don't really like to share. But a memory, whenever you have friends, those are the ones that you like to share. So,
Dwayne, I see you, bro.
No, but that's how I look at it. And y'all were making mention of losing loved ones. I lost my aunt on the 19th, and I love that lady, full of spirit, right? And as we were at the funeral today, I saw a lot of loved ones, and they just talked about the love that she brought. It wasn't talking about the bad stuff and all that. We all have our shadows, but it wasn't about all that. It was about the memories that person, and it wasn't about what they bought them or anything like that. It's like the time that was spent, and during this time we get to reflect and re-examine where we are at with that time that is spent, because sometimes we get lost in the especially like around Christmas time or Valentine's, the commercialization of love. And I think the real love is that quality time.
That's what's up. Anybody have something to add? Okay. Well, I say this. I think it's because y'all kind of alluded to it. For my kids, I'll speak specifically about Joshua. Joshua, who is 11, he's very, very wise beyond his years. Kendra calls him man child because he's very this dude is very analytical. It's not anything he's not really good at. Like, he seems to be good at a lot of things, right? And the one thing that he enjoys most with me is just sitting down and having a conversation. Like, where I'm thinking, hey, maybe we need to go play sports. Maybe we need to play video game. Maybe we need to go out and do something. No, he's like, for me, I just want to learn how to be a man. I was like, what? He said, yeah, I want to know what it's like to be you, Dad. That's what I want to know, And he talked to me about, I see what he said. He said, I see the things that you have to go through, and I want to know what is that like. One of the questions he asked me most recent was like, what are some of your regrets, Dad? What is some of your regrets? And go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to say the fact that he asked you, like he wants to learn to be a man. He is ahead of me by yonder years.
That's what I was saying.
The thought process is crazy.
Yeah, and all of them have that type of conversation. Just speaking about Josh, that's the thing that he enjoys. Where Gianna, she wants me to look at her artwork. She's very, very, very good at coloring. And so she creates these different designs. And so I got her a tablet this season. And that's all she's doing is coloring. And she just wants me to see her color. Or she, like I said, sitting down and watching two people debate on logic. Like, what kid wants to just sit down and talk about logic, right? And she said, that's a fallacy. What fallacy is that? Oh, man, I know it's a fallacy. So she goes back into her mind to figure out what it is that person is saying that doesn't make sense. Whereas Jordana, she's 4, she wants to play tickle. You know what I'm saying? Like, if all I got to do is, like, for what you said, 3 minutes, James, 3 minutes, I'm playing tickle. She feel like the day has been made for her, right? and then you have Ethan. He wants to play video games. That's his quality time, right? He wants that to be the time where, listen, I'm playing games with my dad. So it's like, they appreciate the moments of you because you are their present. You know what I'm saying? Like you're their gift. Then they understand that my kids, as it is now, they know that it could be any day that I may not be here, right? And so they look at it like what James was saying. I had to talk to Ethan, like, bro, can I get in the door? Like, I need to get in the door. Okay. At first, it was him. He heard a car, and he's coming out to the parking lot, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, hey, how you doing?" You know what I'm saying? He hugging me. You know what I'm saying? I had to be like, "I understand, bro, but please let me get in." So I think that is what the reason why they appreciate the time more than the present is, because that you can't really get enough of your parent, because they're giving you of themselves, and you're not going. It's not going to always be right. Neither is that present, right? But they like to be able to know what it's like to be you.
Hey, and I want to point out one thing too, because this reminded me. So when you guys speak about the children and coming to you into the doors, right? I really want us to be careful with, no matter how your day is, no matter how short you feel like you should be, do not. Why? I lived what it felt like for me to want to go run to my stepfather's arms, and him was like, "Yo, get away from me."
Mm.
I still remember that in this very moment. So when we was talking about that, I'm a 38-year-old man, still feeling that little in my heart that it felt that day when I went to go run up in his arm, and he hit me with the stiff arm. Was like, right? So no matter what, appreciate it. Because even myself, like I was talking about it, I'm like, man, the other day I came in the house and they almost tackled me, but I had to pee so bad. You know what I mean? I almost ran over them, but my son don't want to hear that. I'm in there peeing, he in the bathroom with me on my leg, hugging on my leg. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm looking at him like, yo, this is pure love. Like where I'm sitting there like, boy, I don't want to pee on you. You know
That's
what I'm
pure
saying?
love. That's love, bro.
That's unadulterated. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that purest form of love we gonna see out here, y'all.
That's what's up, man.
That's real.
That's funny. Yeah, that's what's up. We gonna transition. Let somebody had another point. So this thing that we're talking about, being present with our kids, and also fathers are definitely needed. This is just to pinpoint that point about fathers being needed, and it kind of connects to, similar to what we talked about last week about generational curses, which we didn't really get to expound upon it. But what I wanted to kind of transition is asking you all, what are some generational curses that you see? The one that I see is fatherlessness, and we'll bring it back in a moment. But what are some that you see, whether it's in your circle or the Black community or in the world in general? What are some generational curses that you see? And anybody can start, and we'll just have a conversation.
I'll jump out there, and uncontrolled fear, right? And when I say that, I mean, so a lot of things when I was growing up, because I was pretty much raised by a single mother, a lot of things I grew up thinking I was tough about, right? Like that I was bucking up against, or I was a man about. The truth of the matter is I was really scared. I just didn't know how to deal with the fact that I was scared. I didn't know how to deal with the fact that, as a man, it's okay to be scared. Like, I just thought to myself, well, if I feel this emotion, if I feel this fear, I'm supposed to act out in anger because that's what covers fear. But in no actuality, that's what's killing our generation. That right there, that uncontrolled fear and not knowing how to deal with it. So that, for me, I believe one of the most crucial generation curses is us not knowing how to deal with the fears.
Yeah, I say at the top of the list for me of generational curses that just absolutely need to be destroyed is the fatherlessness, right? We're talking about being present. a lack of fathers being present. And even when they are physically present, how many of those are actually present, right? Emotionally present, mentally present as well, like that, because so many of the other things stem from that fathers not being present, right? From poverty to the outcomes in education to the outcomes in, this whole gender war that you can't escape if you got the internet on or a smartphone. You can't escape the gender war. Where's that stem from? It stems from the generational curse of fatherlessness. If fathers are doing what they are supposed to do in the home and being present, then most of these things are mitigated. I'm not going to say totally eliminated, but it's mitigated to a high degree. And so I think unquestionably for me, that's at the very top of the list by far.
Shaya Dwayne.
I thought Dwayne was going, but he's still thinking. I would say childhood trauma. I think there is not enough, what is it? I don't know, authority that a person should take over their own life to mitigate and resolve the childhood trauma that has taken place. I think at some point there is a transition from the childhood to adulthood and really being able to self-reflect and recognize what has occurred in your childhood to be able to seek help and resources for that. And so a lot of times it's just carrying that trauma on into every area of your life. And there's no desire or even awareness to be better or to want something different or that this is a serious issue.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Yeah, that was a good question, and I appreciate y'all's perspective. Um, as a Christian, as I'm listening to y'all's perspective, as a Christian, I then go and say that we're not fatherless spiritually, but to what I believe is also a part of the question for me is when you're physically, like whenever we talk about generational curses, I would consider that being a problem, as well, a significant problem that will impact generations. But then also then look at my dad. I really don't consider this, but he lost his father when he was 10, and his father served in the army and got injured and passed from his injuries. And I see how that impacted my dad. But then I saw the little time that he had, how he was able to utilize it. But then also then look at those people who don't have fathers, and I don't desire that to be the lack of hope or the end or the period. I do believe there's hope after it. It's more difficult. It's much more difficult. But then I come to that or say that for my father, but then I also then see that there's fathers who are actively aren't there. So I see it from those two viewpoints. But then as for illness and certain things like that, I'm not sure if I struggle with this because I'm trying to think of, is that a generational curse whenever to like lose someone? So yeah, I guess that's my perspective on that. I struggle with those, but I do agree and would say fatherlessness is a generational curse, but I do struggle with it.
So you should, were you gonna say some RJD?
Oh no. I was sitting there thinking, and I was gonna go into my own family bag of garbage. I like to call is that what we like to do is, especially in a Black household, is sweep things under the carpet, right? We like to just don't talk about it, just push it under the carpet. And when you say that and you think of it physically, if you keep putting something under the carpet, after a while it's going to be a mountain. right? And then somebody's gonna, after a while, trip over that. And that's what happens in a lot of our families, in a lot of our Black households, that our aunties, our uncles, and our grandmothers keep sweeping things under the carpet from generations on. And then here comes my generation. They're passing on, and we tripping on stuff that they left behind, right? Emotional damage, traumas, right? From generations on. And here we are now. We're fighting with each other and bickering with each other, but we don't even know what we're fighting about. The truth of the matter is, all the things that they left under that carpet that they didn't talk about is what we tripping on right now. So the truth of the matter is that, just leave that still happens in that household, stays in the household, is literally what's killing us. I think that's one of the major generational curses, is us not talking about our problems.
Yo, Rod, I'm sorry, Humble Dad, were you about to? Man, this is so deep. So, on one of the days of Kwanzaa, on New Year's Eve, we went to a community Kwanzaa celebration, and it's great. And one of the discussions that came up, they asked 3 questions, and it was deep, right? Who am I? They asked us to say, "Who am I?" Which we've all been asked that before. Who are you, right? But really getting deep, like, who am I? But the follow-up question was, am I who I say I am? So who am I? And am I who I say I am? And then third, am I all that I ought to be? And it hit deep. It was like, okay, that's really something. And Rod, you and I, we've had conversations about this before. That question about who I am is so profound to me, because when we talk about purpose, I think we often conflate what we do with our purpose. And that's such a dumbing down of our purpose, because you start thinking my purpose is just to do X, Y, Z. A lot of times you start connecting that to your job or your career, and jobs change, careers even change. That's not your purpose. Your purpose is who you are supposed to be. And so when you ask yourself the question, who am I? And am I who I say I am? That's really getting into the essence of your purpose. What does that have to do here with generational curses? As we were going through this exercise, one of the facilitators, pointed out that in really getting into our purpose and understanding who we are, we have to look at more than just us. We need to go back and look at our ancestors, because we are a culmination of them too. And so go back and start recognizing how your parents were, how your grandparents were, like what were the different things, and what are the trends that you can see of, some of the positive things, some of the negative traits, some of the trauma, some of the things that you need to address as well. And not, like you said, keep sweeping it under the rug, right? Till somebody trips over it. And so even in asking, who am I, and am I who I say I am, part of understanding who am I is realizing you are the culmination of your ancestors. And so you need to know, what are the things that they've dealt with? What are the things that you need to break in the generational curse for the next line, right? Like we talk about, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And we also stand on the mountain of their trauma as well. And so when we talk about epigenetics, right, and how things can even be passed down genetically from traumas, that was so real in asking, who am I? Am I who I say I am? And am I all I ought to be? And inside of all of that, unpack that connection of who you are presently with the culmination of your ancestors who had you end up being in this position right now.
No, that's real. And it's something that my mom growing up, she did very well in terms of communicating to us about our backgrounds, from like, hey, just want you to know to be aware of these certain things, about yourself. So in adulthood, it always made me more mindful or just cognizant of how to move, what actions to take. And so I try to take that same approach with our son. And sometimes he's crying because he's like, really, Mom? Like, this is sad. I'm like, it's not to make you feel like, that it's really an issue, but it is an issue, right? And it's just things to make you be aware of if gambling is an issue, if alcoholism, if drugs, all those things, just making you be aware, like, some things are in your DNA. So you want to be just more mindful. So when these things do present themselves, then you won't feel awkward. You will have the tools to know what to do, and you'll be open to communicating about what's going on, which I know mental health is one of those things. And so, when I put him in therapy, I'm like, hey, you have a little anxiety. And he's like, I don't have anxiety, it's a whole big old issue. And so then when I told him about, like, just pay attention to your body when your body is getting tight, when your chest is feeling tight, if your muscles feel a certain way, just making him more aware. So then he was like, okay. Now he's like, okay, this is anxiety. So let me start breathing. Let me use the tools, the coping mechanisms, so that this anxiety won't overtake me to where now I'm making decisions that are irrational, right? And so I think it's so important that we do talk about that, because if we don't, then it just continues, and that's why it's generational.
Yeah, that's good. You're talking about understanding your past. I mean, that kind of help me reflect upon when you go to the doctor, right? And they ask you about your history, right? And the reason why they're asking you about your parents and your grandparents or anybody in your family is to get an idea of how they may need to treat you, because you're going to have some similar characteristics in what's needed for you to get better. So that makes sense to me. And so for me, I'm like, okay, well, I don't even know my history, really. You know what I'm saying? The furthest I can probably go back is my great grandmother. You know what I'm saying? But even still, I should be over there communicating with her and asking her, questions about, like, what was it like, or what went on, because she's 95, right? Well, and able to have a conversation. Shay know, you know what I'm saying? She'll OG, right? and so that's one of the things I probably need to do this week. But moving forward, the thing that y'all kind of pivoted around or kind of talked about was fatherlessness, right? You said that these things that we talked about, time, we talked about present, we talked about our impact. And so I had sent you all an article. If you got to read it, that's fine. If you didn't, that's okay as well. But there were some things in there that kind of stood out to me to kind of transition to, like, the topic at hand. One of the things that stood out to me was that it said in this article, Wealthy Single Mommy is the title, by Emma Johnson. She said that, in summary, there are more single parented headed households today than any other time in recent history. And this was written, they brought it back today, but it was written, originally published September 24th, 2022. Excuse me. The majority of those families are headed by a single mom. In fact, 64% of millennial moms have a child outside of marriage. And that's not connected to a race or anything. That's just the society that we're living in and growing up in, a lot of fatherlessness. And so since we're saying that is a generational curse, and we need to know about the past, the question that I have, and it's been talked about before, is what is your thought process on how fatherlessness started? Right. So the question that I pondered, though, was, why do single moms exist? Is my question. Why do single moms exist? Given the notion that we understand that the kid needs both parents. If kids need both parents, then why are there so many single parents? That's my question. And anybody?
I'll jump it off. One of the things I've been noticing, there is the two that I hear is like stuff like systemic racism or systematic racism. Whenever I think about that, I try to find out, I guess, what system is being used. Me personally, I think it's the government. Our government is one who is currently incentivizing one of the biggest component in my view of fatherless homes, because they encourage the mom to be present, and in situations they ask for the dad. There's a lot of issues with incarceration, and you then remove the father, and then you then insert the government, and the mom would then be more open for that assistance in that area. So instead of the struggle, there's a cushion there, and we look at it as a social safety net, and I get it. But then I do think that the government plays a huge role. James was making mention earlier about this agenda. That's the transgender agenda, and all this stuff that's going on now. I think it is being pushed intentionally, and it's being pushed purposely, because what that does, it also then breaks down the family unit, or the nuclear family. So it breaks that down, and I think it's by design. And to be honest with you, it's the people who are influencing society, because once the family breaks down, then the society breaks down after it.
Yeah, Dwayne, you're on point, and it's certainly intentional, and it goes beyond the government. It's not. It doesn't exclude the government, but it's not exclusively the government. It's the machine, the whole entire matrix. Because when you talk about even the alphabet agenda, LGBTQIAPK, it is social engineering at the highest level. So you got to include media, in that. And it's interesting. Like the climate, 2022 again. I spoke about this gender war. That's going on. They, overturned Roe v. Wade, and there's constantly, if we understand history, there's constantly this questioning of what are we going to do with Black people. Right. As we approached the Civil War in this country, and they kind of saw the writing on the wall that, okay, slavery is going to come to an end at some point. Because first, they stopped the slave trade, where you couldn't, bring, kidnap, human beings and bring them over here, but you could still breed us. So you couldn't get any more over here, but you could breed the ones that were currently here. And so things started to erode in that institution of slavery. There were debates going on, and like, what are we going to do? Right. The think tanks, the elite of the day, were sitting down and having discussions like, we're going to send them back. Hey, I'm not about to get out there and pick no cotton. Like, what are we going to do? And then the eugenicists came up and said, you have political figures that would say things like the best way to hate a ninja is to hate him before he's born. And they said, that's it. Margaret Sanger, we will get into, abortion and eugenics and birth control. And then now, as we're seeing declines of certain races not procreating enough, it's like, well, wait a minute. Do we still want to allow for the deletion of unborn babies when it's kind of affecting us? Or maybe we'll make that where you start to push back against that legalization of doing that, but we still need them to delete themselves or not procreate such a same rate. So why don't we just condition them to war with each other? Why don't we just condition them through media and social engineering to actually be confused about your identity, be confused about who you want to be with and mate with? And then if we don't even get you in the confusion of your own identity or who you want to be with, we'll just make you hate the other counterpart, right? And we'll just feed you with that, the best man final chapters. I mean, like, we'll just feed you with constantly being at war with each other, and you won't procreate. So it stems much further and much deeper than the government. Again, it includes that for sure, but it doesn't. It's not exclusively that. And so that's where it comes from, man. It's the attack. It's the attack of the matrix. Is why we have so much fatherlessness, and that's because when you have a society that is fatherless, that is filled with broken homes, that is going to lead to a society that doesn't have masculine leadership and authority, and that's going to be a very, very controllable society.
So you're saying that the reason why a woman is a single mother is because the matrix has convoluted that she can do it by herself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying it's layered. I'm saying it is those things of the incentivations, incentivizing them, like Dwayne said, putting the men in jail, empowering the women, replacing the husband and the father with the government, for protection and provision, coupled with the social engineering part, of what's going on with the media. I'm saying it's layered, that there's, being a replacement, of men.
Okay, so I was with you when you were saying, if we go back to the pardon of slavery, right, that they was taking, the slave trade, got that. But when we get to right around Jim Crow, like families were together. It's like 80% clip for black people, black families to be together. 80%. Like they was trying to figure out like how the black people doing it and they not doing it, right? Mm-hmm. And so then that's when you enter into the civil rights movement, and then when you get into feminism, you can't really say that word over here, right? And then liberation, right? So I do agree that there is a propaganda, right? Because in order for you to control the people, you got to take the man out, right? And Absolutely. To take the man out, if you get the woman to believe that he's not needed, for anything other than other resources, then I can see what you're saying, right? Is that what you're
yeah, absolutely. All that fits into social engineering, okay. the feminist movement, and convincing our women that it had anything to do with them. That's social engineering, right? Yeah.
I do want to state this. I do take large or big interest in politics, or the state of our politics, because it does affect us. And I find it interesting, like at work, like in the public squares, they tell you not to talk about sex, religion, and politics. Yet each of those components are so vital to our society. So I find it interesting that those things we should not talk about because they cause huge forms of contention. I don't think it should. I think it's important for us to be able to have a healthy civic discourse. But then for me, based upon my worldview, I see it being the social engineering is done by one of the greatest social engineers of our entire existence, which is the devil himself. Because he was the one who was able to convince Eve in order to do something which was against their own best interest. And I find it interesting that the government, or as you say, the powers that may be, have the power to influence us to choose or make decisions that are completely against our best interest, even to our simplest natural sense of self-preservation. So I do believe they have us mapped out to the point where we will actively do things that are thoroughly against our best interests, and we'll do it and we'll love it. And I think once people are aware that this is being done to them, they have a better chance. But then that's what deception is. That's what fraud is. That's what counterfeit is. All these things that look real and they look genuine, and then you actually bite on it and you find out you got hooked, like a fish. So it's like I look at it from that standpoint. So it's for me, it's important to like the Bible says, put on the full armor of God, so you'll be able to withstand the wiles of the devil. And I think in that it's a scheme, it's a trick. So in order for us to be able to see these things, we have to be equipped in order to see this. Be willing to then realize that not everyone who says that they have your best interest actually have your best interest. So politics, to me, and government is a struggle for power. So for me, from the basic standpoint, it's a struggle between the devil and God. And for my worldview, we already know who won, but in that you can see the tricks or the energy that is put towards bringing the humanity down. And I believe what we may mention is a huge component of it, because it does lead to fatherless homes. Once you have a weak family structure, that's a vulnerability. So then guess what? It all is now fair game. The lamb or the wolf in sheep's clothing, he now has the pick of the lot, if you so allow it.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I think a few things when I'm looking at more of the surface level. There is a disconnect between single parent homes and the disparities that exist between those and two parent homes. And I think it's due to the fact that we tend to operate in anomalies by saying things like, oh, I made it out, or it I tended to be okay, or I grew up completely fine, right? And so then that makes it more acceptable and not really taken into account generationally how that can affect children. I also think that there is a lack of responsibility and accountability for the two people who are having sex. I mean, y'all are both choosing to do this, and the woman ends up a single parent or a single mom. Where is the accountability? Where is the responsibility between those two before even going down that route, right? And as a woman, I think oftentimes motherhood defines women, or society has made it to whereas motherhood defines a woman in a sense. So you have women who want to be mothers, who desire to be mothers, and now it's so many different variables that can come into play, but now they're in late 40s, 50s, and trying to still haven't found a husband and don't have a hope to find one. And so they're wanting to take those things into their own hands to create it. Not saying that it's fine or whatever. I'm just saying this is why single moms do exist. So if we are just more educated and take responsibility and accountability beforehand and really try to drive change from a generational standpoint, I think we can do that. But as far as our community, we tend to just look at our solo family, our individual family, instead of trying to make change within our communities and our culture.
All right, and I'm sitting here. I love everybody's standpoint because I'm sitting here like gleaming it and actually eating up this information right now because I was wondering because I'm partially from that era of the single mother house raising me, and I think one of the major reasons is this whole thought of independence, right? This independent thought. Like it takes a village, not just to raise a child, but to do anything. This whole thought process of us, just me and mine, we good over here. That's not really what it is, because the truth of the matter is single mothers shouldn't be single mothers. They could be raising children alone, but they shouldn't be doing it by themselves. It should be uncles, cousins, neighbors, everyone else helping that young woman raise that child. But another thing that I realized too is on a more surface level, like Shay said, I think that a lot of reasons why there are single mothers, I'm not even going to go to the mothers. I'm going to go to the fathers. They didn't know when to retreat. See, a lot of men ran. See, we talk about this systemic and all those things, but let's talk about what I do know. I know a lot of men that just took off and ran, right? That didn't want to deal with their responsibilities. And the truth of the matter was they didn't have the emotional intelligence to say, I need to retreat and not leave. I need to go somewhere and get some energy for some other brothers to build me back up so I can go back into that fight and fight a little bit harder for my family. See, a lot of times that whole thought process as independence, we get into that little circle of ourselves and we beat ourselves in this circle in our minds of where I can do this all by myself. But the truth of the matter is you can't do nothing alone, because when you do it alone, you end up messing up. And let me tell you, the one thing I've seen myself in my own life is that the more I get secluded, the more I fuck up. I'm heavy, y'all. The more I get into my head alone, the more I mess up in my family tremendously. So
yeah. An idle mind is the devil's workshop.
You better believe it. You better believe it. And he does his greatest works in that workshop. And if you're not careful and you believe that he won't, he got you already. Because the worst thing that you can do to us as human beings is seclude us, right? Solitary confinement is the worst thing you can do to an individual. So what do you think that when we think this, oh, I'm independent, I don't need no one else? No, you playing right into that matrix. Because the truth of the matter is you need me like I need you. The same way my son is your son is my son. I said before, I'd much rather you pick my son up by his neck before somebody put a bullet in his head and bring him home to me. I'd much rather that. So the truth of the matter is, I think there's a lot of single mothers out there because we have this thought process that we can do it by ourselves. And the truth of the matter is, none of us, and I mean none of us, can do anything on our own.
That's what's up, man. That kind of transitions to, and because I always want to make sure we get out on time. You know what I'm saying? Dwayne be over talking, so we got to be, let me go ahead and get to this question. Right? Don't worry about me. Me and Dwayne are very close friends. For those that are watching, that's my dude. It's my accountability partner.
I'm just glad somebody else got called the overtalker. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Dwayne is my accountability partner, so he'll get at me later. So with the absentee father, with the matrix, with the I think the government, the things that you all have alluded to the it takes a village to raise the kid. The question that is next is then, because of this information that we've established, which the question for the day is, are single mothers destroying their sons? Seeing as though we're saying that men need to make sure that they don't run away. Men need to be active, need to be present. Women need to be educated on who it is that they're dealing with. Men need to make sure that they're dealing with the right woman, right? The question is, are single mothers destroying their sons?
So I'm going to answer this going back to, I gotta go back to the father. It's just how I roll. Like, ultimately, it's our responsibility. Like, I just believe in massive responsibility, and so single mothers come from fatherless homes. Even we talked about being present earlier. At some point, there was an intact family in the line, like you said, home with that. Even we're going all the way back to Jim Crow, or civil rights. At some point, it wasn't your father, and then you became a single mom. Maybe your mom was a single mom too, but maybe her mom was, like, maybe your grandparents was together. At some point, there was a man that was there, physically at least, and Shay talked about, these anomalies where I made it out okay. I don't know. So sometimes we have these invisible injuries and we think we're okay because you can't see the injury, right? Like, I coach wrestling, and part of the coaching certification, every year we had to take the concussion class over and over and over, because concussions are so big. Because in sport, concussion is that invisible injury. If you have a concussion, you seeing stars head, like we see it, we can see you woozy. But the next day, 2 days later, you might feel normal walking around. You feel normal. You don't have if I broke my arm, you see a cast. If I sprained my ankle, you see the brace, you see the crutch. If I'm standing on the sidelines and I had a concussion 2 days ago and I had stars there and I feel fine right now, it's an invisible injury. So it's so important. So we have these invisible injuries that when we're raised, and we're thinking because our children, they graduated high school, they didn't go to jail, they went to college or whatever, that don't mean you're a well-adjusted adult. Like, you could get praised for you're such a good father because you posted pictures at the high school graduation. You got your kid through high school, they didn't go to jail, and they ain't nothing but they're the first thing from a well-adjusted adult, lacking childhood trauma and all of these other things. They have all these invisible injuries. You can't see them in prison. You can't see them being a high school dropout. You don't see them being a teen, a teen parent. You don't see any of these things that will make you be like blatantly, you dropped the ball there. But they might have a whole bunch of invisible injuries. And so that is what at some point starts her picking the wrong person, the wrong dude that's going to be an absent father, right? And so, these invisible injuries are very, very important. And then the other thing I want to add is we have to be careful with trying to put a Band-Aid over top of these invisible injuries. And one of the biggest Band-Aids that we use in our community is this concept of the village. It's correct when it's properly applied. The village is not a replacement for fathers. And so even when you see, the Black Lives Matter, statement, and they make mention of affirming Black women, trans women, LGBTQIPK, they make a mention of affirming everybody except for fathers. They talk about, dismantling nuclear family. All this stuff is on their statement, and they make no mentions of fathers. And they talk about a village. So often in our community, we talk about a village. Not to say anybody here was saying that, but we talk about a village as a replacement to fathers. That's not what a village is. The village is husband, wife, father, mother, and children together, intact nuclear family. And my nuclear family can lean on and build with your nuclear family. And collectively, our families are tied together, and we're a village. So I have strong men that I'm connected to, that I can lean on, that I can reach out to if my family is going through something, and vice versa. Now we're a village, but a village is not a replacement for fathers. Because when we start looking at a lot of these, fatherless home statistics, 85% of the people in prison came from a fatherless home. A single mom 600 times more likely to be in poverty than a married woman. The high school dropout rates. We know, we've heard these things. I'll land with this. One of the things that's most often missed in those fatherless home statistics is it didn't say single parent homes. It said fatherless homes. I recently heard it said that homes raised with where the child is with a single father fare about the same as a home where the mother and the father are together. So it's not single parent homes, it's fatherless homes. That's how important fathers are. So a girl raised by just her dad is less likely to be a single mom than if she was, raised by, just her mom. So at some point, we got to go back and put the responsibility on the shoulders of the men, because it's fatherless homes that lead to single family homes.
That's a bet. Anybody else?
No, I think that was good that you said fatherless homes. I initially was thinking that it's single motherhood instead of single mothers that are destroying their sons. But I like fatherless homes better, because without a man in the household, there are just certain things that won't be addressed, which leaves the boy, when he's growing into a young man and a young adult, without direction or the tools to be able to succeed as a man, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and financially. So it leaves a big gap or a hole there that a woman in general just can't provide.
Oh, y'all want me to go ahead, Dwayne? You got it.
Well, we don't hear you, D.
Triple muted again. Boy, I tell you. So yeah, I was raised by a single mom for a bit, and I tell you, it was interesting because can it be done? No, I don't think so. I don't think you can. There, some of my deficiencies comes from that. From my dad's situation and my mom's situation, like how they were raised, I could see the deficiencies of each of their parents' relationship flowing into them, and then flowing into me, and then I can see it. I'm like, wait a minute, like that ain't cool. Like I can see those things, but then I did have my dad in my life, which did make a difference for me. But again, I can see the deficiencies again with him not being in the household. So that's a part of the whole being present situation. But I heard this, and I shared with you, HD. I shared where the guy, he stated, "Raise your kids, and you can spoil your grandkids." Yeah, and then spoil your kids, then you'll be raising your grandkids. And I thought that was so deep and it's so real because, man, I've seen it. Like where the grandparent now is left to raise their grandkid. And I look at that like, man, meanwhile, the parents is off like living their best life. and it's tough and disappointing. But then I have to then think of, what went awry in that process to create that environment. Now, unfortunately, there are natural deaths, and I have to then put those in the equation where the father does die, and it's unfortunate. But then that's where I think the village can come around. Like, you got your uncles, you got your granddad, you have those family friends that can pour into you. So I do have to acknowledge those situations again. But as for the independence piece of it, I see that being a huge drawback and deficit, because no, it does take two to emotionally balance a child. As much as we might try to balance it out, we won't be that 200% in which we need to be, because the man brings 100% of something, the woman brings 100% of something. So that child needs 200%. If they don't have that parent, that mom, if she's 100% on point, that's still not enough.
And I would just say that like I said before, I'm a product of a single mother, and I wouldn't say they're destroying their sons, but them being single moms is not helping their sons either. Me personally, like, I learned, like you said, Dwayne, I see a lot of my deficiencies in the way of me not having a father in the home, right? My mother trying to compensate for things that she can't even compensate for, right? Like Shay said, there's going to be things that can't be addressed, but it's not that she doesn't want to, it's she just doesn't have the capacity to, because she's not a man, right? So our single mothers destroying sons, nah, the father's not being in the houses. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said earlier, a lot of what I thought I was being tough about was just me being scared. Like, me just not knowing how to deal with my emotions. And this is no knock to our women, but my mother's not the most emotionally stable creature, right? And like, shout out to our mother, I love her to death, and she knows it, but she's not the most emotionally balanced. And like you said, Dwayne, it takes that 200%. It takes that 100% on both sides for that child to be balanced. And I'm grateful for the men in my life that came around my life later on that helped me see my dark spots and my blind spots in my manhood. Because even as per me and James, there's so many things that James has taught me about manhood already in a short time that has already benefited my son. You understand what I'm saying? Has already benefit me teaching my daughters about what she should look for in a man. And that came from another man, yet it wasn't my father, but it was my peer who can say, yo, listen, this has worked for me. I've learned this, and here, partake in this, use it if you like. You understand what I'm saying? So I think it's more so, like I said before, it's not the single mothers, but it's the fathers that's not being present that's really hurting the sons.
I'm gonna say it like this. I think I disagree with what you all are saying, because to a degree, this is what the word destroying may be harsh. We'll go with that. However, if we're saying that a woman cannot raise a man, and single mothers are raising boys, then that means that they're doing a horrible job raising a man, because they're not equipped to do so. Y'all said it by your own definition. So in essence,
she can raise a boy, but she can't raise a man.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So they are destroying their sons, because if that father is not there, or they chose wrong, right, and they decided to lay down with a dude that is ill-equipped to even be a husband, then the onus is on her, right? I'm not talking about if she got married and then it's different, but I'm talking about these one night stands or these relationships that just, okay, we're gonna have sex, but we ain't gonna have nothing else. I'm gonna just live here with you, whatever. The promiscuity of the thing is what I'm saying. When women liberation happened, it said to women that you can basically have as much sex as you want to with whoever you want to, right? And as a result, babies were made out of that. Boys and girls were made out of that. And since we're saying that it takes man and woman, then what has happened is that women have done a really bad job, because they don't have the father in the house, to say, this dude ain't gonna be the one for you. Like this is you shouldn't even be hanging out with this dude right here, right? For her to have a solid standard of what a man should be, because I've asked this question to Alan Q as well as Courtney Michelle. I said because they're single women, and I had asked them, how would you know if a dude was going to be a good father? Like y'all, you know what I'm saying? Like how would you know? And some of the things that they said was like, okay, well, how does he treat other people's kids? How does he treat his nieces and nephews? How does he treat his pets? How responsible is he? And they give those particular qualities. I would submit to you that most women do not do not vet a dude enough to know that type of information. And so if a woman is laying down with a dude that is not her husband, she needs to be for sure that this dude, if y'all do have a kid, that he's the type of dude that's going to stay around for his kid. But then oftentimes that's not the case. So yes, you can put it on the man, but the man is only doing what he's allowed to do, which is sleeping with that woman, right?
So
go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
So I think for me, what I'm trying to describe, you're not talking about the man that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the man she's sleeping with, right? You talk about women, they're not vetting properly, they're choosing the wrong men. They're not equipped to choose the right man.
Agreed.
So when Dwayne, brought up, hey, if you raise your children, you get to spoil your grandchildren. If you spoil your children, you have to raise your grandchildren. I got daughters. They're not supposed to know how to vet. They don't know. I'm not supposed to teach them how to pick. I'm supposed to pick. If my daughters end up, being a single mom, that's my failure. Not the man who ran out. I'm not blaming him. I'm blaming me. This is me. Right? I'm just telling you my mindset, my philosophy, the radical responsibility. I had a failure at some point. This was the invisible injury that I'm talking about. Yeah, they graduated. Yeah, they didn't go to jail or whatever. But if they ended up with a dude and that walked out on them, I messed up somewhere as a father. I wasn't involved enough in the vetting process. Like we talked about this before on another stream, Humble Dad, how men they're invisible when it comes to vetting. Yeah, I got you to 18, go off to college and, go ride on some, fraternity stick for the next 4 years. And once you get serious with somebody, bring them around and I'll give my blessing as a formality. You're not really involved in the process. That's the failure of a man, the father. What are you doing, bro? You gonna take your precious daughter and just turn her over to the world and say, I've taught you what to look for. I'm not teaching you what to look for. And all right, go get them, kiddo. Like, nah, no.
But you're talking about the man that, like, you're talking about you in the panel. You're talking about if we are not as present as we're saying that we're supposed to be, and our daughters become single moms, that's on us. Like, I can get with you on that, right?
Right.
Okay, but if the woman doesn't have a father to bounce it off of, she is now at the liberty of making her own decisions, and she has not own decisions. She has to.
So were you talking about like in a widow situation? Like if I was.
No, I'm saying no. I'm saying okay. No, I'm not talking about that.
What situation where she doesn't have a father?
That is what it is right now, where a woman is sleeping with a dude, and she has a kid. Okay, the dude is
where's
not
her
there
dad?
anymore.
Where's her dad? I'm saying
probably not there.
Like from what standpoint?
Because that probably goes back to, I would say, 70s.
Okay, so her dad wasn't there. So her mom was a single mom. She messed up too, right?
Yes.
What did granddad do? He messed up then. Granddad is the responsible one.
Okay.
That's my point. But
at some point, we cannot continue to go to that because we have to be in the here and now. How do we fix here and now? Right? Because we've already established
how do we fix the here and now?
Right. So we already established that the dad, at some point, there was a chain that broke, right? We understand that the chain broke, but now that we are where we are now, like, we got to be able to communicate to men and women But specifically, if we're saying that we need to be talking to women about, listen, you need to have a dude in your life that you can say, I like this dude. What do you think about it?
Right. Which still comes down to father. So the answer,
Yeah.
if the question then becomes, so I, again, just going back, at some point it was the grandfather, it was somebody. But if we saying, okay, well, hey, listen, if we starting to get the great grandfathers, they gone. Yes, okay, yeah, it's their fault. They messed up somewhere down the line, but here we are now. How do we fix it? If the question is how do we fix it, women can't fix it. So that's why I'm saying laying the responsibility at the feet of the women. It's not. It might make us feel good in talking about, but it's not going to fix it. Women are incapable of fixing it because they're not suited to vet for themselves. Okay. Right?
All right. So you're saying that women are incompetent of being able to.
That doesn't make them incompetent.
If an individual is not able to make a rational decision in who they decide to sleep with, that means that they're incompetent.
Okay, hold on. Let me just hop in right quick because we always have this discussion because HD wants to put it on the women so bad.
No, I don't. I don't.
But, so if we go back to what we originally discussed, right? If we go to the doctor, and this is your example, and you said the doctor is going to ask about the background and the history for each parent, right? Each side. There is a reason why they do that, right? So that they can completely diagnose what the issue is, right? So if I go to the doctor and I'm a woman and I didn't have my father's side present, then I only know my mother's side, right? There could potentially be a misdiagnosis, right? It potentially, because one side is absent. And so we don't have all the information that we need to make a holistic decision. So when we're talking about putting the onus on the women, well, of course, the onus may be on the women if she's the only one that's around to give the information. If the father isn't there, he's not here to tell his side of the story, to help the doctors really get to the root of the issue quickly. They may still get there, but the time that it takes for the doctor to get there, the type of tests that they may run may be different if they had both parties available. So it's not, I wouldn't say my doctor is incompetent. I would say that they didn't have all of the information to be able to make a final decision as quickly as possible. They will eventually get there, but the matter of time, the resources that it takes, the effort that it takes to get there will be a little longer.
I got you. So let me explain what I'm saying. My position is that men need to take care of their business, period. That's number one. I've always said that. I'm hard on men that I have conversations with, because I have high standards for myself, right? That's the whole point of the conversation, is that dudes need to be taking care of their responsibilities. However, when you go to the doctor, they're talking to you and asking you about your past, but they're going to hold you responsible for the decision that you make in eating healthy and exercising and taking your vitamins and all that. They're holding you responsible. They're not holding somebody else responsible they're not holding your grandparents responsible for the present situations that you are doing. Right?
If it's not genetic, then, because hypertension, diabetes, some of those things are genetically passed down, right? So I'm still holding whomever responsible for giving me these genes because I didn't have a choice in that situation. It's already in my genetic, in my DNA. So if we're talking about how to fix the now, really and truly, the solution is just to band-aid it until we fix the root of the issue, which is bringing the fathers into the home, into their rightful positions, and make sure they stay there.
Agreed.
Because whatever we do now is just only a band-aid. It's not going to fix anything. So it's no point in trying to figure out what is the root of it now. Like my doctor, I told him that my foot was numb, and he said, oh, let me give you some medicine, and then we will go and do the x-rays. No, I don't need the medicine until you get back the information that's on the x-rays, right? You just want to put a band-aid so the symptoms will go away, but what's the cause of it? Do I need to change my diet? Do I need to lose some weight? What is the root cause of it to ensure that this does not happen or continue to happen generation from generation? So if we're talking about how to fix now, talk about some band-aid situations. And if you want to put the onus on the women, that's only temporary, but it's not going to solve the overarching issue.
Let me tell you why that's
It's a
incorrect.
generational curse. It's
let me
not
tell
going
you
to
why
break
that's
the curse.
I'm gonna tell you why that's incorrect. Okay. And I think me and you had this conversation before, right? And men can test to this too, right? Men do what women allow. Agree or disagree, man?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if a woman says, like right now, y'all have a standard. Y'all want a 6-foot dude. Y'all want a dude with money that makes more than you. You want him to be educated. You want him to be well traveled. You know, y'all have all these credentials of a dude, right? And a dude is saying, that's what she wants. Let me aspire to get that so I can get her, right? That's what dudes do, right? You agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I got you though. I'm gonna let you walk into it. Go ahead.
So the dude, if he does not have a legitimate, solid dude in his life that can say, listen, no matter how much she throw it at you, you need to withhold from it, then he is now be like, okay, because he's raised by a single mom, right? Because we already said that if he was raised by a single dad, it's just equivalent as to being raised in a 2-parent household. But if he's raised in a single parent household, right, that mom is not necessarily communicating that to him, right? So what I'm saying is that where we are now is that we have to educate single mothers on that they need to have their sons around men, and if more importantly, they probably need to have their dad in their life. And if need be, they may have to get back together with that man that they slept with. Or how about the ones that haven't? You need to do a better job of picking. So yes, it's always interesting to me that when the onus is on the man, men be like, yeah, you're right. I do take responsibility. But then when we talk about women need to take responsibility, it's like, no. That's not how it should be. You decide who has sex. Period. Women decide who have sex. Okay. Men be like, if she gonna let me have it, then I'm gonna go get it. And that's the self-control that we have to have, right? Sugar Mike talked about before, it was the dad that was there to say, you're not gonna do nothing with my daughter. But as we have it now, that father is not there. So the woman is out here by herself, and she needs to know that you need to have another guy vetting that guy, because James just said that women are not capable of doing that.
But I want to push back a little bit, because she's not capable. That's hard for me to swallow, right? Because
and I'm gonna say the word that I used just for the record was equipped. Women are
okay. Now I say that I'm gonna go to how do we fix this, right? Now I'm gonna talk to the women, to the single mother. How do we fix this going forward for her? Is to teach her the value and understanding of time. Time is going to tell everybody's truth. See, what happens is a lot of times our young women, they get caught up in whatever the man is saying right now, right? She gets caught up in his looks, his vocabulary, his things he can provide in this very moment. But the truth of the matter is time destroys every lie. Time will destroy any facade. Time will destroy anything that is not the truth. So if we show our women, hey, listen, take the time, let time do its job, let time have its course, and time will show you if he's supposed to be with you or not. For the ones who don't have the father, right? So we're talking about helping moving forward from this point. I want to talk to the ones who right now are sitting home with that baby and wondering if the dudes that they messing with right now are the ones. Sweetheart, let time take its course. See, people asked me before, oh, why take you so long to marry your wife? It took me 8 years. You know what 8 years is? It's 8 seasons. It's the 4 seasons 8 times. I seen her go around the sun 8 times before I realized she was the one for me. And guess what? In that 8 times, I seen the good, the bad, and the indifferent. And then I made my choice based upon what time showed me. So I didn't have no questions, am I really marrying the right person? Because time showed me this is the person I wanted to be with. So I think that if we teach the power of time and what time can cancel out, it'll make a phenomenal difference in our women going forward.
That's
Man, let me
exactly what
fix-
I said, though.
Nah, let me fix this for both of y'all. Hamadad, I probably take your head. Rod, you my man's, but
That's exactly what I said.
I gotta clean this up because that was horrible advice. That was horrible advice. Disrespectfully, all right? Disrespectfully, that was horrible advice.
Disrespectfully.
Listen, man. Okay. Think of your daughter, Rod. Time. Look.
No, James.
Hold on.
But before you say that, because only reason I said my daughters because I'm talking about the women who are already in that situation. You know what I'm saying? Like
He did say that.
at home.
So I get it, but here's my
point. Ain't getting that time. Ain't no time.
I don't know how to. For me, I don't give like advice on how to do things the wrong way. Like I'm gonna shoot for the ideal. Well, that ain't the ideal, scenario. Well, shoot for the ideal. Like it's not a matter of aiming too high and missing. It's a matter of aiming too low and hitting. We had these low expectations of how we're gonna do things and how we're gonna move, right? So here's the thing, and you'll agree with this, Rod. You'll agree with this, humble dad. We're talking about time. Give it time. Time ain't better than me. In this regard, time is not going to be able to evaluate and vet this dude better. I don't need the time that she needs. How many times have you seen a woman been with a dude? She been with this joker for 10 years. And you could have told her in 10 minutes, like he ain't the one next.
Yeah,
I don't need the time. Right, you don't need the time. So the solution, they're not capable of vetting for themselves. The solution ain't giving more time. Like, nah, you ain't about to be with my daughter for no, years and years and years while she just need time. No, I'm going to vet. So what about the woman? Well, her dad ain't there. Well, you got to get it. You got to get a dad. You got to get a surrogate. You got to get it.
Exactly. Why?
Okay. But what I'm saying though is here's where it all comes together. And no, I'm gonna come back to you in a second, humble dad, because you don't even realize. And I'm gonna come to you now. You don't even realize what you did. You shot the dude's bail for the same thing that you was blaming the women for. You said, well, you were saying if women, they're the gatekeepers to sex, so they have like they get to say who that's with. So stop sleeping with these dudes, and if they don't have a father there to tell them what to do, because men are gonna do what they're allowed to do, then they got to take the responsibility. But then when you talked about the men, you said, well, if they don't have a father there, then they gonna just do what they. Oh, so if he don't have a father there, he gets shot some bail for not knowing how to conduct.
No, I didn't shoot in the bail. Remember, the first thing that I said was that men need to take care of their business, and I said if a man doesn't have,
and then you said, but if his father's not there, he's gonna do what he do.
There, no, I said if his father's not there to teach him to withhold, because the other girl, the girl doesn't have her father either. So I'm talking about fatherless homes, and so I'm saying if the girl is going to come after the dude and be okay with having sex with whoever, the dude is also okay with having sex with whoever, is what I'm saying, right? Because they both have fatherless homes. So I'm not negating either one of them. I'm telling the woman, right, because she is the bearer or the gatekeeper of sex, that dude is ill-equipped, just like you're saying that the woman is ill-equipped because the dad is not there. I'm saying the exact same thing. Dude is ill-equipped because in his mind, I got to go get it, right? I'm saying, listen, dude, you don't need to, if I'm talking to either one of them, right? Mm-hmm. Dude, you don't need to be having sex with nobody that's not your wife, right? That's what I'm saying, okay? If you so happen to do so, she needs to be somebody that's on the verge of being your wife, right? Because that's, you look at her different. You need to value her in that particular way. And to that woman, because you are the gatekeeper to sex, right? You have to now, because you don't have a dad, you have to fend for yourself and have to recognize that this is not enough. This dude is not here to be a husband to you, and he's not here for the longevity of you having a kid. So I am not negating neither one. I am saying that we always talk about the man has the responsibility. it's rare that we talk about. Well, in this space, I guess we do. I'm just saying. I landed right.
This is I guess this is the clearest.
I landed right here. I'm saying if women are gatekeepers to sex, right? We got to teach them that you are valuable. You and your womanhood is powerful. If you withhold sex from a dude, you find out a lot about that dude. Am I wrong or am I right?
Yeah, for sure.
So don't have sex with the dude, because if you do and you get pregnant, the dude is more than likely he's going to vomit nose. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha. And this is what I'm coming down to is we're making the same mistake over and over. We gotta teach the women. We gotta teach the women to do this, do this. You cannot teach them. You have to. It's one thing for me to like try to equip you with information and say, good luck, go do it. And it's something else for me to give you the game and say, I'm going to be here with you along the way. You can't just teach women, stop doing this, stop doing that. Whether, like people don't make decisions based off of logic.
Hey,
we make decisions based off emotion and we back it up with logic. All of us make emotional decisions. I'll prove it to you. Have you ever kissed anybody? There's no logical reason to put your tongue in another human being's mouth. No logical reason whatsoever. So why do you do it? Because it feels right.
That's a logical reason. What are you talking about? It feel good. That's logic.
It feel good is a logical reason.
Yes.
Okay, so then it's a logical reason for a woman to, using that logic, it's logical for a woman to lay down with a dude that's no good because he got good sex, because it feel good. That's logical then. That's the same reason.
Obviously, in her mind, that's what she's saying.
So you saying that's logical then?
That's what she's saying.
I'm asking what you're saying. You see how he's trying to say about it.
That's what she said.
I was being facetious, but both of them are emotional responses.
Right, exactly. So it's emotional response, and so my point is we're emotional beings, and we're not going to make decisions based off of purely what makes the most logical sense. So trying to teach women to make decisions based off of logic, I just asked you this: how's that working out? I just leave it at that. How's that? Get in here, Dwayne.
I'm sorry. I want to ask this question. So how old are you? Your two oldest again?
9 and 13 and 9.
Okay. Which one of them a girl?
The oldest is a girl, 13.
13. All right. Do you think the older she gets, the closer she'll draw to you, or is it?
She's already been drawn closer and closer to me. Yeah.
Oh, drawing closer. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I guess I misunderstood. Like earlier, you were saying as for the type of enthusiasm that they show towards you, the oldest are different than with the youngest.
Yeah, and that was obviously a little tongue in cheek. Like she's 13, she doesn't run to the door when she hears the garage door open.
No, I get that, but I guess this is the thing that I'll get. I've noticed. So whenever girls get older, they drift from their fathers and then gravitate to another man. Right? I think that's a natural thing to do, a natural progression. But in that, they'll heed your advice, but the advice that you have, yet although they are important, I don't think it's can at times as powerful as that emotional piece that then attracts them towards a man in some instances. So the reason why I'm saying that is we lose our influence. We typically will lose our influence in those adolescence years or the teen years as those emotions kick in. So I look at it like, yes, we could be there, but I think there's times where they tend to want to push us away so that they can gain their own independence in those decision making that they desire to do. So I could then see that happening as well. As much as we would like to lay it out and say, hey, this is how it's going to go for you, and then they're like, yeah, about that.
Dwayne, I think that comes from us having a very limited perspective on historically over time and space, how marriage has typically happened in the Western world. This idea of romantic love, romantics, where you just go out there and you choose on your own based off of your feelings, being led by your feelings, has led to destruction in the family makeup today. Arranged marriage is still most prevalent around the world, and so my children have been raised with a framework from children understanding that you are not choosing your spouse of your own devices. So my 13-year-old has been raised with this understanding for 13 years. And so if you look in other parts of the world, it would be foreign to them. Like they're women to say, I go out there and go to a college and, where it's a whole bunch of, fraternity boys and jocks and athletes is trying to sleep with me and for me to go choose. Like, and my dad.
There are regular dudes out there trying to sleep with her too, bro. Don't be trying to say it's just
no. Yeah, sure.
The top shelf.
No. What I'm saying is, you take a woman in the Middle East that's has a Muslim background or India, where they do arranged marriage. It's going to be foreign to her to think that she's supposed to go out here and my dad taught me how to pick and I'm supposed to go pick now. That doesn't make sense to her. So yeah, I'm saying
she still gets the option though.
But that's what
but I understand what
yeah. I'm not arranged marriage and forced marriage is not the same thing. Yeah, right. Exactly. And I'm not saying I'm going to pick and she's going to have no choice. No, let me say it this way: involved marriage. And this wasn't even so foreign for our people, even just a couple generations ago. Your great grandfather, you came home and said, "Oh, I got a crush on, Tanya Johnson." Who Johnson? Who? No. We don't mess with them. That's such and such folk. You're not going out with her. You knew they people. If you breed dogs, you breed bulldogs. You be more interested in the pedigree of the bulldog you're gonna make your bulldog with than the pedigree of the person you're gonna have your child be with. So I'm saying involved in the process.
Yeah,
when you raising that framework, it's not that foreign.
So how do you suppose since where we are, because if a man is raised by if a boy is raised by his mother, you're saying that you're gonna say that boy still has the responsibility of becoming a man, right?
Absolutely.
With no help.
Well, he's gonna have to get the help. He can't do it by himself.
And so, would you say, I got you, Dwayne? Would you say that most women do that? That they get the help that they need if they're a single mother, they get the help that they need for their son to become a man?
I would say probably not. I don't have
any numbers. So are single mothers destroying their sons if they do not do what it is that you just suggested that they do?
So if they're equipped to know what to do, maybe it's to create. Are we saying we're trying to find a solution to give advice, or we're just talking about it as a whole? So if so if we're talking about the solution, then we've already identified what the potential problem is, and let's head to the solution. So what is that solution? Instead of who is responsible, let's talk about the solution. Right. And if that is creating, what's the game plan? They have big brothers, big sisters, whatever, all the fraternities, they have different organizations as well, uncles, godparents, minister leaders or church groups. There are so many ways to find men who can help, stand in the gap if that father isn't present. My son's father is very present, but I still have coaches and his godfather and not my uncles, but friends, best friends who stand in the gap, and then my ex-husband's friends as well. So it is to put them in positions where they do have that interaction with other men who can kind of mentor them in that way.
And that's awesome. That's exactly what I was alluding to earlier, that if that's not there, then that's not going to make a good thing for the son. So that's why I was saying that's why I was acknowledging the issue. Then I presented a proposition in which the one you just laid out, right? That's what I was saying. Go ahead, Dwayne. And then Dwayne can go. If anybody else want to go, they can go after Dwayne.
All right. So this book right here, Point Man. So in chapter 2, I got that highlighted. And the title of the chapter is Save the Boys. And it says, a boy is the only thing that God can use to make a man. God can use. Not a mother or a father, but God. So I look at it from the situation. God will put people in your path, and it's up to you to then acknowledge those people that are put in your path in order to set your path straight. Because so again, like I was saying, some unfortunate situations happen. I also then look at like orphanage or people in foster homes, right? They don't have parents. So that's why I say I would count that to be true, because God is the one who then will then set your path straight. So again, like I was saying earlier, as for the situation that we're talking about is like the fatherless piece of it. So can a mother destroy? Only if the son lets them. I'm gonna put it like that. Only if the son lets them. So like there's certain people that are they'll call them they're taught, and if they're not taught, they're self-made. Being taught is something that we look at as now as a privilege. Like it's a privilege. You're not entitled to have a parent be a good parent. Like it's a privilege to have a good parent, and then in that privilege, you're going to extend that privilege onto your kids, and hoping that they will then pass that as for the things that made life easier for you. And then, like we were saying, as for broken homes, acknowledging that situation, and then trying to then avoid those, and then passing that on through generations itself. But I do believe, as for the son, are single mothers destroying their sons? It's possible if the son allows it. That's how I'm put it, because that son has the ability to acknowledge all his deficiencies, and he has to be able to acknowledge the things that makes his situation. Because pain, like y'all made mention of earlier, as slapping a band-aid on something. Like if you break your arm, you can't slap a band-aid on it. It ain't gonna fix it. If your wisdom tooth is hurting, you can't slap a band-aid on it. You can rub as much oil gel on it as you want, but it's not gonna fix the problem. And I think surgery is one of those situations where it causes more pain that's what then leads to the healing. And I think once you acknowledge why your situation is why it is, then you are able to actually go ahead and fix it. So as for that son, like he's going to realize all the deficiencies, hopefully, and I think that's why we're given a conscience, to be able to have that communication with something outside of yourself. So that whenever you are messing up, something can be tugging at your conscience saying, hey, you shouldn't go this way. So the way that I look at it is only if that son allows it, because he has the opportunity to be self-made or tap into that true power. And I believe that true power comes from God.
That's good stuff, Dwayne.
You gonna wrap us up, James? You gonna give us the Twitter version?
The Twitter version. The Twitter version. Great conversation here tonight. I say only if the grandfather allows it as well. It's like, again, taking that radical responsibility. My posterity, my lineage, like that's my responsibility. Dwayne said it earlier. If you raise your children, you get to spoil your grandchildren. If you spoil your children, you get to raise your grandchildren. If one of my daughters becomes a single mom to a boy, I messed up somewhere. Point blank period. I messed up somewhere, and now because I messed up with my children, now I have to raise again. In my old age, I gotta start the clock again. I'm not gonna let my grandson, fail. So it's still a man at some point, because women aren't equipped to solve the problem. Even when we talked about Adam and Eve earlier, it's always Eve messed up. She did this to the third. Adam failed, and he wasn't there. Well, actually, he was there. That's a whole nother topic. Not gonna get into that. Keep it to the Twitter version. But Adam was there with her and let her eat. So it's still, we have to take massive responsibility and ownership as men. So great topic. Appreciate you having me on Humble Dad. And salute to all of the panel.
That's a bet. Well, it's been another good one, another dope episode of Humble Dad Podcast. Don't forget to check out Shay McNuckles. She's doing taxes. It's in tax season. I appreciate you joining us this evening. Then you got Dwayne in the photography, and then you got James Penn Jr. over there on Instagram, and then you got RJD over there with the Imperfect Gentleman. Make sure y'all subscribe to their channels. Check them out. Until next time, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, we out here. Deuces. what another phenomenal show. I had to give some different takes, just to kind of not have everybody agreeing, kind of take a different approach to the conversation to see how people would respond to the statements. And everybody did a really wonderful job in their commentary. And as always, I appreciate those that watch and that will watch and that are supporting. If you know somebody that is interested in getting answers, so have them subscribe to the Humble Dad podcast, because we are solution based and not just problem oriented. So really good discussions. Are single moms destroying their sons? Dwayne said only if the sons allow it. I would say no. I don't think single mothers are destroying their sons, but I do think that if you are a single mother, that you need to have men in their life if it's not this, if their dad is unavailable and is unwilling to be a part of their man's life. If you are a man that is running away from your responsibility, you need to take responsibility of your seed, and you need to contact the baby's mother. And if it's so be it, you need to take it to the court and have some type of custody of your kid, because at the end of the day, we all know that the man and the woman needs to be that come together to make that kid, need to be also that kid that is building that kid up to be an important and integral part of society. God created us to be in union with one another as man and wife, as husband and wife, so that as he said, to be fruitful and multiply. And then he wanted us, as it says in Deuteronomy 6, to talk to our kids about him morning, day, and night. And when the dad is out of the picture, it creates a whole different case of problems. Well, I appreciate your time, and we'll rock with you later. Deuces.